like to have balanced takes. I want this to be my most balanced take on this channel. Why? Because I'm going to say some controversial shit about a director that is absolutely adored and loved and could do no wrong. And that's Chrissy Nolan, okay? Christopher Nolan, Chrissy himself, is a director that is well known. His name is uttered far and wide across the seven seas. He has acolytes, as above, so below, that simply just come if they so much as pronounce the first four letters of his name. And I have loved many things about how this director crafts his films, but that is not without acknowledging that the way that he crafts his films, while they're not perfect, they never have been, they never will be. And I feel like the name that he's built for himself is far too big to fail and often overshadows the truth about his movies. At least for me, I remember this is all opinion based, all right? I'm just a guy talking about films in his bedroom. That's all. I think The Odyssey is Christopher Nolan's most flawed film. I think out of all the films that I've seen, this is probably the one where I wanted to see what else he could do. Every movie he makes is grounded in such a way that it is literally insane. The concepts of Inception grounded in a world of like neurological espionage is insane. Cerebral espionage. I'm going to go in your brain, I'm going to fuck something in it, and then I'm going to steal good ideas. That's crazy. Tenet, the way that he dealt with time. Interstellar, the way that he grounded it, and he grounded sort of this blend of real science with the theoretical was fucking crazy. The Prestige. Like, this man deals with ideas that in themselves are more interesting in thought than in their execution. And The Dark Knight, as a Batman freak, I've grown detached from those films more and more. I think that when we got Batman Begins, it's the first time seeing this grounded take on Batman. And it was surprising. The second time we saw it, Heath Ledger was the man who stole the show, the entire movie. He's the most memorable part about that film. But then when we got to The Dark Knight Rises, well, no more Heath Ledger, and we've done this thing already 3 times, 2 other times. At that point, all I could see was the fact that Nolan thought it was more important to ground Batman in reality than to be true to his character. He literally made sure that the bat symbol on his chest blended in with the color of his suit, because no man in his grounded reality would actually walk around with a bat on his chest. And that's when I realized I'm not so sure Christopher Nolan wants to make a Batman movie. Never mind all the 007 influences in the entire trilogy. But nonetheless, they exist, and I do think that there are great things in them. I don't think they're great Batman movies. I do think that they are great films. I can say that, right? I'm allowed to. And with The Odyssey, a story that needs no introduction, most of us are familiar with the myth. Man goes to invade Troy. It takes him 10 years to fight that war and 10 years to come back. All the meanwhile, his wife and kid thinks he is dead. And there are suitors in his home waiting to take his wife for themselves. It is, in fact, the first Hollywood summer blockbuster ever written. It's epic in scale. It influenced pop culture before the term pop culture was a thing. There is no denying the influence of The Odyssey on Star Wars, Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings. It is truly what we have to thank for what we consider grand scale sci-fi fantasy. I mean, it is everything. And so going into this, I'm not going to pretend that I'm a purist, right? I'm not going to pretend that I remember every single fucking fragment of The Odyssey. But one of the things that had me excited was just to go full myth on this. And this is the one thing that it's lacking over a few other things. But the biggest thing is that the mythology, this feeling of myth, feels like a huge omission in this telling. That's not to say that there aren't the mythological creatures of the Odyssey. That's not to say that there aren't gods in this film. That is to say that the magic that comes with that mythology is completely stripped and gone. If it's not the blue gray hues that shower this movie in this cold palette, it's the overbearing sound of his very usual, and he uses this score all the time. You know the score when the Joker was doing the heist at the beginning of The Dark Knight, that sort of ascending drumming that is very cyber in nature. He plays that in this movie. A period piece, a mythological fantasy, this bigger than life narrative, and he plays this heist music that he's played in Inception, that he's played in The Dark Knight. Hearing that as the movie starts was my indication of, oh, he's Batmaning the fuck out of the Odyssey. That put me in a weird place. Now, within 30 minutes, we get the scene of the Cyclops. And I thought that for a moment, I was like, you know what? I might be wrong. This might be it. Because the scene with the Cyclops is where the film, for me, hit its peak. But without knowing it, I was very excited for what was going to come next. But unfortunately, after the incredibly directed, lit, and choreographed horror sequence, because it is absolutely a horror sequence, the way that the Cyclops is portrayed, how insanely real it is. The blend of scaling in this scene with an actual actor portraying a Cyclops with very disturbing prosthetics. I mean, the scene was great. But at the end of the scene, he does a thing he does with his editing, which is there is no coming down from the sequence. It's a quick cut, and now all of our characters are sitting around talking about what just happened. There is no come down, there is no build up to any of his action sequences. They just happen. And like a montage of, or a highlight reel of moments, the movie just keeps on going. Moments where a character will monologue is filled with flashbacks, because to him, telling a story is about showing and telling at the same time. When he begins the story, we start out of order because you know that his thing is time. There is a lack of linearity for a little bit of this movie. I won't say all the way through, but that's how he introduces some of the narrative bits of the story, is through non-linearity. We've done that before. We've done that many times. And it's like, he's not interested in telling a Greek myth. He is interested in telling a Nolan story. He only took the skin of the Greek myth and told his version of the story. Which, sure, you can argue, hey, that's what directors do. They adapt and they put their signature on it. Every film he's made before this has been present, right? Well, minus The Prestige, right? Has taken place in present time. In a time that is believable, that is connected to us, that we recognize. In a story about a Greek myth that has inspired so much, I thought that maybe we would get away from the overbearing sound that envelops and overshadows the dialogue of the actors who he spent, I'm sure, a pretty little penny to get all these very recognizable faces. But I can't hear them for a good hour of the film. Therefore, I have no emotional connection to any of these characters. Every performance is awkwardly stilted. Every line delivery is awkwardly stoic. And the characters with the most arc and the most range are Tom Holland and Anne Hathaway. And it's not because all the other actors can't act, because obviously they're big names for a reason. It's because the writing, like, Christopher Nolan wrote characters that are uninteresting, yet somehow at the very end he decides that, well, now is the time to explore, and put the exclamation mark at the end of this exploration of war and violence and the repercussions of it, and how we're not really heroes. And I mean, hey, fuck yeah, that's all great, but it felt like just a little ways more than what we got from Dunkirk. And Dunkirk is really just moments. It's putting you in the seats of war, which I would argue Warfare did a much, much, much better job. But, you know, Dunkirk is just a technical showcase for all he can do and put together and how he edits. Understood. But it felt like this was just maybe 2 steps above that. And it was just disappointing. I couldn't connect. And then you have Robert Pattinson, my favorite current actor of this generation. You give him the slimiest, sweatiest villain, and yet somehow you do nothing with like the depth of his acting ability. You don't push the character beyond just the guy who says, "You sniveling bastard." The showcase here wasn't the character work. It was the editing, it was the sound engineering, but all these things we've heard before in movies that he's made that take place in present time. And I don't know, I wanted something more. And all I got was the same method he applied for the Batman. He made not a Batman film, but he put the skin of Batman on it. And here he didn't make a Greek myth. He made a Nolan movie, but he put the skin of a Greek myth on it. You do have your mythological creatures, and I think that for the most part, there are a couple interpretations of these mythological entities that I enjoyed. He did something with the sirens that I thought was actually really quite haunting. And the Cyclops scene is probably one of the better horror sequences I think I'll see all year in terms of creature features. And the scene with the pigs, if you know, you know, that was body horror on a Cronenberg level. But in between that, the movie is just moments. That's what the movie is. Just moments of showcasing technical ability and technical prowess, bridged by stoic delivery of characterization and lines that I just couldn't feel anything for. And then the movie's bookended by a fight sequence that just once again shows that he's not a good choreographer when it comes to action. I mean, this was almost as bad as the final fight sequence with Bane and Batman at City Hall, the mercs versus the cops. I don't know if you've done it, but I've done it at this point it's memed to death, but if you mute the movie and you just look in the background and you take the sound out, because a lot of the heavy lifting in his films is done by the sound engineering. If you stop the music, if you mute the film, you will see actors miming the fight in ways that just isn't reactive to a real fight. And I wonder why he insists on not letting someone else choreograph. And the fight sequence here at the end is very much here's this fight sequence, which is done better than most of his films. In his defense, the fight sequence here is a step up above anything that I've seen in his films. But there is still I'm gonna cut just as the fist is about to make contact, and then get a rear shot of the actor reacting, so we don't have to see just how far away that actual punch is from that person's face. I don't know, when I think about this and I think about Troy, the one with Brad Pitt, I think about that film and I go, that film felt more lived in than this. Yet somehow that had no supernatural, mythological elements, and this did. Yet somehow there's something far more theatrical about that film. The sense of tension, the sense of buildup. And I was severely lacking in this. It reminded me of a Zack Snyder film. And Zack gets a lot of shit for doing style over substance. And I will always admit that I enjoy his movies because I don't think he shies away from doing style over substance. I think 300 is a fucking awesome movie. I love the remake of Dawn of the Dead, but I can understand people's critique when they say he is style over substance. And I think somehow Christopher Nolan has gotten away with having people accept, somehow, without knowing it, that he is, in fact, style over substance. I think this film is visually stunning, yet somehow a little dull. And his name will carry it. The sound engineering in moments tricked me to think a scene was far more epic than it actually was, or far more meaningful than it actually was. But at the very end, I sat there thinking, if you just changed the score, would this scene hold any water? Would it hold any weight? Would it feel deeper? And I came to a resounding, yeah, fuck no. No, it wouldn't. Fact of the matter is, he knows what he's good at, and he will continue to do that with every movie that moves forward. This movie was not bad to me. It was just okay. To me, it just felt perfectly fine. A movie that could have been 20 minutes shorter. A movie that could have been casted by anyone else. A movie that should have had more meaningful characters. And a movie that should have not gone so far out of its way to remove the mythological element that makes this true, that makes this honest. And the whole time I was watching this, I just could hear the award season bells ringing in my ear. I was like, yeah, I know why you're doing this. And so I'm glad people enjoyed it. I'm happy people are enjoying it. But I did not. I found myself struggling to hang on to something deeper than what I was delivered. And for 2 hours and 45 minutes, and I'm usually someone that goes like, I don't mind long movies at all. I prefer long movies. If I'm going to go to the theater, let it be an epic time. 3 fucking hours, keep me sat. But I will admit that this movie would have done a lot better for me 20 minutes shorter. It's also funny to hear actors in this film with a deep, like, American LA accent tell one of the other characters when they invade this village, this woman scared of the Greek soldiers, she's staring up at one of them, and one of them says, "Why didn't you welcome us?" And she goes, I thought you were the sea people. And he goes, "We're the Greeks. In the same way I'm telling you I'm Greek." And when I heard that sentence being told, being said, being recited, I thought to myself, no the fuck you're not. I know you must have thought your audience would have said, no, you don't sound anything like a Greek. You're not even pretending. You're not trying. There is nothing. It's just the most like awkward line delivery. Ultimately, I just think this movie was an average experience for me. A very average experience. And that's okay. I think directors can have average experiences. I don't think every director has to be perfect. I actually don't even think it's the director's fault. I think it's the hype that comes with the nature of fandom. I think fandom itself tarnishes criticism in a way that makes it almost impossible to disagree without you coming off as many of the buzzwords these days, a hater being among them. That's my review for the Odyssey. I know, controversial one, but I'm no stranger to having some of those controversial takes on this channel. And I think maybe that's why some of you keep coming back. Regardless of disagreements, you guys enjoy that I do not sugarcoat bullshit. I do want to be as honest. I want to be reliable in this friendship that we have where we go back and forth about movies because we're fucking nerds and we need to get a life and we need to go touch some grass. Thank you guys again for showing up. As always, I am ever grateful to you for you spending your time with me. And I will continue to put out content as long as I live. Expect another video before those 3 days. I promise you. I promise you. And this one is the Freddy Krueger director one. I just had to get this one out first. One, to fill the gap, and because I don't want to rush the other video. But two, I kind of wanted to talk about it. So anyway, thank you guys for showing up. I appreciate you. And as always, I will see you at the movies.